Back again for another video. On today's topic, let me clear my throat a little bit. Just had a little Chinese food. Cheat meal for the week. But anyways, on today's topic, we will be talking about a woman's worth. Not in the way that I guess they view it, but the way that men view it. And I'm not going to be talking about in the essential way, but rather internal man to internal woman. Because I realized something here recently. I was having a conversation about this, explaining this to a woman. And I was telling a story about how I ran across this woman, and I ran across a few women. I gave a couple different scenarios on how women tend to have a very skewed view about their value. And this isn't going to be the cliche, well, what is a woman, it's not going to be cliche. It's not going to be anything that you probably ever heard. But it dawned on me. It's something that I've been thinking about for a long time. But when it comes to a woman being viewed by a man, we look at the body count, right? We look at the type of men that she's had. We look at, the overall stature of a woman, her demeanor, her character, her disposition, her ideological beliefs, her intelligence, her liability. We look at all these things, and then we quantify her value based upon us. Remember, I made a video not too long ago that was speaking about the measure of a woman, and men are the ruler that is used to measure women, period. There's nothing else. She can't even measure herself. And that's part of the problem here in regards to this video. A lot of women have sentimental value on themselves. Think about it. What is sentimental value? Sentimental value is when something has reached the over expiration of its utility and its newness, or its newness, and a person still holds on to it because attached to it are sentiments. What are sentiments? It's simply a point of view. It's how you view something, the importance of how you view something, usually memories, usually thoughts, feelings, emotions. I've heard people say it all the time, I love this song. It has a large sentimental value to me because it reminds them of something that they adored from their past. I've seen people hold on to stuffed animals, that were given to them by their deceased parents, maybe. I've seen people hold on to cars that no longer work because it was their first car. I've seen people do many things outside of myself in which I am looking at a hunk of junk, but they see something of high value to themselves. This is the exchange that women have with men. And I don't think many men are realizing this. Because a woman's body, in many cases to her, it is a tool. Well before, for most women, can I say that? We're going to say it anyway. For most women, they objectify themselves before men objectify them. And I'm not talking about the abused women or anything like that. I'm talking about women in general, throughout history. Women objectify themselves well before they get objectified. Remember that I said in one of my earlier videos as well that women are the first ones to lie to themselves. Well, the first lie that women are told are the one that they tell themselves. That's what I said. And in that, there are many things that are true, because this is denoting a separation of self from body and self from mind. The same concepts that I also recently went over not too long ago. This is what it's speaking of. It's speaking of the separation. Women actually have a better grasp on the compartmentalization of the different forms of self than men do. The reason why is because men, we tend to use all of our faculties, meaning the higher self, the you, the mind, and the body in unison. Whereas women don't tend to do that. A lot of times, they do that, but they don't tend to do that. A woman will use her body solely without her mind, her higher self, or her you being present. And I'm not saying that men don't do that, but women are more readily to do this. And I believe this has to be so. This is because each facet of them, even the higher self, has to be evolved by men. And that requires a certain malleability and ability to separate while not molding the other portions of self. Because the way that a man uses a woman's body, we kind of sometimes need that to be separate from her mind. And what I'm considering is a woman having a child. We need her to separate her mind, her fears of dying behind childbirth, and lend us her body in order for us to recreate ourselves through her. We need her not to consider how dangerous this is. And there are some times when we need her mind and not her body. There's sometimes when we need the you aspect of her, because we're calling upon her to make a moral judgment that she has a better insight and intuition of than a man does. We use these things very individually. We don't need a woman's body to be considered when we need the you version of her to make the decision or to give us the information. So women are more readily capable of separating themselves in the individual portions. And the thing about this is that each one of them can actually objectify one another. This is the reason why women tend to, once again, objectify themselves well before men do. And I'm not talking about in a sexual way per se, but I'm talking about in the separation of entities. This is what I'm discussing here. But once again, women are more capable of this. You have to think, what does this have to do with the topic? Come on, Wolf, spit it out. I'm getting to it. This is the problem that we run into with women also, because they are able to compartmentalize themselves and view themselves objectively in a sentimental value. And mainly, specifically dealing with the emotion of the mind, the moral right of the you, and the sexual gratification of the body. These are and the mind also holds the ideological view as well. These are the portions that men have a problem with when it comes to dealing with women. I've come to realize this. Because when we mention that a woman has a high body count, she flips out. She doesn't understand. I'm here to tell you why, though. The reason why is because she has sentimental value of it. Remember that I said that sentimental value goes past expiration and use, right? Now you're getting it. It goes past sentimental value, or it goes past use and expiration, because one holds on to it even though it does not have the same quality in which it was created to have some time ago. I was having this conversation, like I said, with someone, and I likened it to $1 million. $1 million. Let's say a woman specifically, was given $1 million at her birth. And as you know, children have no concept of money, so she didn't spend it or see it as very important. This is where the objectivity comes in. It's because women use money, and men, we use money in order to exchange things for goods and services. When it comes to the money, though, the older the woman becomes, the more likely she is to spend it on something that doesn't make any sense. This is her body that we're talking about. She spends it in ways that are not fruitful for the outcome that she'll come to realize that was most important when she gets older. This is also why women were married off. I also told this person, I wish my parents had actually picked a wife for me. That way I wouldn't have been responsible if something went wrong. But this is also why we used to practice this as well, because we take away a woman's accountability, which is going to be another video that I'm going to bring up later on. We take away a woman's accountability, meaning that she is not responsible for anything that goes wrong because she did not make the choice. But that is no longer so. We have given women the whole bag of money, right? And they're able to make the decisions that they see fit moving forward with the bag of money. And as you know, as I know, even when I was younger, I spent money on stupid stuff all the time. I'd be a billionaire probably by now if I had invested correctly, right? But we spend money on things that are stupid due to inexperience in adolescence, immaturity, right? And this woman, she spends $500,000 by the time she's 18. She has half left. $500,000 is a lot of money. Now remember, this is a bag of money, right? This is all tangible. This isn't credit cards or anything like that. It's physical. And she goes into her 20s. She spends another $250,000. She gets to her late 20s. She has $100,000 left. She spends it more and more and more. And there becomes a time where she becomes really familiar with this money, because now it's forming an objective view to her, because the things that she bought don't really hold sentimental value anymore. It was the apparatus of the money that was the vehicle to the experiences that she had, in which she starts to grow an attachment to. She views it as sentimental. So she's very careful how she spends it, because this is what's giving her the best experiences that she's had in her life. It's affording these things, right? You got to keep your money straight. The problem with this is, though, you need to spend it at some point. Can't take it with you when you die, right? And the woman realizes this, but she has spent 90% of the money at this point. And she starts to look at the money. She starts to memorize the serial numbers, and she noticed that, well, this 20 is a little bit lighter than that 20. But she spends it nonetheless because she wants the experience that she's been used to from her early teenage years all the way up into her late 20s. Now she's in her early 30s, and she has $10,000 left. She spends a little bit more because she loves the high, she loves the rush, but now she's realizing that this money is very important, and she shouldn't be spending it the way that she did in her early 20s. But she still spends it nonetheless, but more carefully this time. She's more thoughtful in the way that she spends her money. She gets into her late 30s, and she has $300 left. She spends just a little bit more. Now all she's left with is $150. $3 $50 bills. And she sits with them and she says, I'm not going to spend my last $150 on something stupid. Because it's my last $150, I don't have anything left. I spent everything in my early 20s and 30s, and now I'm here with $150 left. This is when the sentimental value becomes strong, because not only is she memorizing the serial numbers, but she's reading every letter. She's becoming more finite in the way that she picks about this money, and she looks at it and inspects it. The sentimental value goes up even higher because, remember, she had a bag of money. It's a bag of money. And that $150 has been with her through all of her journeys. Even though there was more at one point in time, she'll never forget that $150 because it's been there for the longest. And she runs across a man who's worth $500,000. And she says to this man, here, I have 150. This should be enough. I know that you're worth 500,000. I know this. But this is my last 150. And the guy says, no, I'm not taking that. I'm worth more than that. I'm worth 500,000. You see the tag. And she says, but this $150 means a lot to me. This is all that I have. This is sentiment. And this is the problem. Women believe that the way that she spends her money shouldn't matter anymore, because the last little bit that she has holds more sentimental value to her than what it's actually worth. And she thinks that the sentimental value that she places on that last $150 is going to be enough to pay for that $500,000 man. But unfortunately, my dear, it is not. But anyways, like, comment, and share. Check me out on Facebook. Check me out on Patreon. But until next time, this has been the Wolf and Beta Close. May you have a good day, and peace be with you.